What's up, party people? Welcome to the live deep dive. That gentleman is Ian Boyd. I'm Paul Wellington. And we're going to talk a little bit about spring expectations. Spring practice is coming up, Ian. It's going to culminate, thank God, in a spring game so we can watch some actual football and get lots of notes and opinions. But before that, we're going to have spring practices. And we're going to talk more broadly about the kinds of things that we're going to be looking for, tapping into our intelligence sources, trying to find out about. And the place that we're going to do that when we're not here is Inside Texas. You could join now for $1 American. What a deal. New members only. Please come join the best Longhorn conversation on the interwebs. And then, of course, we want you to like, subscribe, and tell people about this here show and this here YouTube channel. Ian, you ready to talk a little spring expectations, my man?
I am ready. Kind of snuck up on us a little bit.
It has, yeah. We had a very mild winter here in Colorado, so it's kind of felt like spring hit early, and now I'm starting to actually feel it. I'm juiced. We're gonna get a spring game, and I say all that, and I just looked, and we're gonna have snow tomorrow. But after that, it's gonna burn off, and we're gonna have spring. So
I'm gonna visit Michigan in a couple of weeks and get frozen before I come back to probably 90-degree weather here.
You moved from Michigan and you're not required to visit there anymore.
True.
Okay.
Yeah, this is just for fun.
All right. I just want you to know that. All right. Welcome, chat. We would be very interested in your input. So if you have any questions as we're going, please throw them out there and we'll do our best to answer them. And if the question's too hard, we'll ignore it. We'll pretend we didn't see it. Ian, you ready to talk about expectations on the offensive side of the ball, my man?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Lead us off.
Well, first matter of business.
The way you said "well," you was like very prissy. That was interesting.
Cam Coleman. What are we doing with Cam Coleman? I mean, we know broadly what we're going to do with Cam Coleman, but specifically, we know he's not just going to stand outside and run deep or not like at Auburn.
Yeah.
Where it's like you're going to run a one-dimensional route tree and the depth of when you turn around is the only thing that changes. We know it won't be that. But how creative are they going to be with Coleman? Where all will he move around to, and how will they get him involved?
Do you still want us to move him to safety? Is that still your plan?
That's only if Derek Williams is still injured.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so Cam Coleman is the guy we did a specific deep dive on that you guys should go back and watch if you haven't seen it. The way Auburn deployed him was clown shoes. It was terrible. It was hard to watch because he's a very talented player, and they limited him to 3 routes, and he wasn't allowed to cross the hash. It was a laser, Ian, and if he crossed the hash on a route, he got burned. But we're going to employ him in a lot of different ways. We don't think Sark's just going to line him out wide and say, be scared of him. We will do that sometimes. Are we going to move him around a lot? Is he going to be the clear designated number 1, or is he 1A to Ryan Wingo's 1B? What do you think?
Yeah, here's the thing though. Golden, Sark did not do that much more with Golden than Auburn did with Coleman, right? Yeah. He was like, Isaiah Bond is our guy. We're going to move Isaiah Bond all over the place and make him the feature. And Golden, you go deep out there and we'll throw it to you if they focus too much on Bond. So I guess he has had that tendency before. And it could be tempting for Sark to go back to that because Wingo is such an attractive move piece weapon. So that's the question, right? That's what we want to see.
Yeah, I think we're going to be mining our informational sources and our intel on that. But I will predict, I think we're going to move Cam Coleman around a bit. I think we're going to move our receivers around a good bit because Cam Coleman represents such an enticing vertical threat, whereas Wingo is such an enticing horizontal threat. You run him out into the flat and you have Arch turn his hips like he's going to flip it out to him on a screen. And once Wingo's got the ball, he's going to run like a running back. But if a defense overreacts to that and you get single coverage on a safety on Cam Coleman heading right up the field, there's going to be a lot of bad choices. You coined the term Ezekiel's wheel for a very specific concept. I think we're going to have to come up with some version of that for that sort of concept. Wingo flat and Cam Coleman up the sideline.
This is the first time this has occurred to me, but if Coleman can block at all, they could play him to the same side as Wingo and have him block on the bubble screen.
And then release or actually block.
Yes, yeah. That is a horrifying possibility.
Not to mention Emmett Mosley is a big guy, right? You can run this out of like twins with Wingo in the backfield, right? There's all sorts of stuff you can do with this. I think Sark's going to have a lot of fun with the playbook. I don't think we're just going to line up and play football. I think we're going to do a lot of fun stuff. And good news, early indications on Cam Coleman, good guy, hard worker, and he knows this is a contract year. He kind of got sold on a bill of goods at Auburn in year 2 that Jackson Arnold was going to transform the offense. He was leaving Auburn, and a lot of people, the intel we got, and we got this from Inside Texas, Ian, Texas was going to be the choice. All we had to do was basically come up with a sufficient amount of money. There were people that offered him more. He wanted to play with Arch Manning. He wanted to play for Steve Sarkisian. He wanted to play in a good supporting cast. He understands the big deal. He knows what time it is. So I'm excited about Cam Coleman. His deployment will give us some indication of the offense.
Also in that same realm, Nick Townsend.
Yes.
Nick Townsend is the other guy who's going to give us some inkling. Like to what extent can he match Jatavian Sanders where Sark is moving him around to throw him the ball?
Yeah.
So like we know Townsend is a more than adequate blocker. You could flex him out to be a hammer on bubble screens and then do the same thing where he goes and releases down the field. We already saw Sark tinkering with that jet sweep against A&M that we were all drooling over, where at least I know I was. He's exactly the kind of guy where he does not have to develop a sophisticated route tree yet because he's a good blocker.
Yeah.
So his sub 11 100-meter speed becomes like, just remember those Boise State teams with Kellen Moore, where they would always have like a pair of like 5'0", 40 tight ends.
Mm-hmm.
They were always wide open because they'd work open off of their blocking on play action. Sark could do that with Townsend to an unreal level.
Yeah, and it's interesting because if you pair that with zone concepts often, both inside and outside zone, particularly an outside zone, you could have that tight end take that wide step like he's trying to hook you. It was a defensive end. And he sells it, and then the quarterback rolls. He doesn't hand it off, right, on that. And then the tight end just releases. And you create this hesitation in the defense because the linebackers are flowing to fill gaps. Safeties are reading outside zone like, oh, I got to get to this. We've been drilling this. And you just lose the tight end in the coverage, as you said, Ian. Like they just get lost. And a guy with Townsend's athleticism, that may not be an 11-yard gain. That might be, it might go for 30. And that's so, remember when we previewed Arkansas, they had a couple of very capable receiving tight ends who could run. And we saw that people just kept losing them because they're worried about Washington. They're worried about Talon Green. They're worried about, all that. And those tight ends just kept getting lost running straight verticals.
Wasn't that guy? Didn't you find out that guy was averaging like something like 30 yards a reception or something?
Yeah, Rohan.
Yeah,
the writer of Rohan. Rohan is his name. But yeah, I think we could see similar stuff. We're not arguing that Nick Townsend is going to be wide receiver, target one, but he is going to be a complementary target that twice a game he can hit you for 15, 20 yards, and that really hurts the defense.
Yeah. That's the kind of thing that kills you, right?
Yeah, and I think people get very focused on, well, we're not going to have enough balls to go around. We're not going to have enough, how are we going to balance all this? If you ever watch great offense, the pie grows. It's not about distributing a limited pie. The whole pie gets bigger. So you'll be like, well, there's only so many touches to go around. Well, all the touches become bigger and more valuable. It's how
Yep.
Alabama has Henry Ruggs and, all these incredible, Henry Ruggs was what, the number 3 receiver in that receiving core with Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddle.
Yeah, was that 09? Or
Yeah.
20,
I mean,
15?
people never said who's going to get, there's not enough balls to go around. The pie grew. And so you're not doing 3 and outs. So 1, you'll get more possessions. But 2, when you catch passes, they go for a lot of yards and they go for touchdowns. And that's all the skill players care about. They don't care about it's just a virtuous circle.
Yeah.
That's it. All right. Ian, what do we talk about next? We knocked out Cam Coleman, the tight ends. What other indicators are we going to look at for the offense?
Well, moving to the offensive line, we have really 2 big questions there. We'll start with scheme focus. Kyle Flood, I asked Kyle Flood about this before last year because I asked him, is this going to be another outside zone team? And he was like, we don't know yet, which I did not think was a great answer.
That's not a good answer. I don't like that answer.
Yeah, I didn't like it at the time. I liked it less as things went all along. But I think Flood is the type, like there are teams where it's like 70% of what we do is inside zone based. Kyle Flood is not, and I think that's like a Sean McVay has this rule where it's like 70 to 75% of our runs need to be wide zone based.
Yeah.
That is not going to be Flood. I think his dominant scheme is probably closer to like 40, maybe 50% of their calls. But what is that for Texas? And how high is that percentage? It's probably not going to be as high as me or you would want. And what is that specific play call that makes up the bulk of the run game? Is it outside zone, which we feel like probably just should be?
Paul? Yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting to see. We tried to go more gap heavy last year initially, which was a poor read of the offensive line and their abilities, right? They weren't just going to push people around and dominate. And even when they did, we didn't have running backs who were very good at breaking tackles, which is a key aspect of gap schemes. You want to hit people hard, get movement, and then as sort of people halfway get a hand on your running back, they're not fully there, that your running back shrugs it off and keeps trucking, right? It's classic Ricky Williams. It's classic Earl Campbell. It's stuff Texas fans love, right? We just didn't have that. We didn't have guys who got pushed. And when they did get pushed, our running backs didn't break tackles. So that's a lethal combination of bad effects. I think we should be outside zone heavy because it suits both our running back personnel. It suits our offensive line personnel very much. And I think it suits Arch Manning. You could do some cool counters off of outside zone with a really mobile quarterback who can throw on the run or tuck it himself. Utah Horn brings up a very relevant question. A little late to the video, but just how much of a jump do you see the running back room being from last year? Well, Ian, I'll be curious on your opinion. Way up. Last year, our running back room, there's 16 teams in the SEC. We were in the bottom quartile of running back room ability. This year, I think we'll be in the top quartile. So worst to first.
Yeah. I have nothing to, I don't want to even speak on that anymore. They're going to be very good or pretty good at least. And last year they were very bad. So that's a big deal.
Big change.
What do you think? I actually thought Gap would be good last year until we watched it. And then it became clear that they just weren't strong enough, like you're saying. Yeah. And they did better with outside zone. What about inside zone as the primary? Are they big enough to do that this year? I guess we don't even know who the 5 are, so that's hard to answer.
Yeah, we don't know the 5. I think it depends on the defense, kind of like duo. I might prefer over inside zone. You can do either. Duo, the difference is duo, you're always going to have a double team on the play side. So inside zone, often it's just man on man. Sometimes you'll have a brief double team, depending on deployment, right? A&M, we got a lot of mileage out of attacking their front, trying to replace in the interior, and their linebackers being small and kind of getting pushed around. So that was a good game plan for that game. we didn't really do it effectively against anyone else. And God help us on the goal line, we didn't do it. But I think that could improve. And here's why. We might throw the ball so effectively, Ian, that teams have to light box us. And if someone light boxes you, just run downhill. Because if you can slip one tackle, you're going to freaking go, especially with Smothers and Brown. So I think that's going to be part of it. Teams can play us honestly last year.
Yep. I kind of like these backs on inside zone because I think outside zone, sometimes you want a little bit of a power runner because it's just one decision, one cut, and then blast through the wash. Inside zone is really good when you have guys that can jump cut and be able to get to be able to win different angles so that so you face like the light box, the linebackers are trying to guess where to be. And then the running back cuts, jumps outside or jumps inside. And now the linebacker they're not athletic enough to follow them. And then it's off to the races. I think Raleek Brown and Hollywood Smothers have been good at that, would be good at that. But to do inside zone well, you cannot give up the edge at tackle, and you have to have guards that can cover up defensive tackles. You don't even necessarily have to push them that much if you have a passing game like Texas, but you do have to cover them up and like turn a shoulder or something.
Yeah. So the thing that was effective for A&M is they were moving for us, and then we would just block them off.
Yeah.
If the team just says, we're going to line up, we're not moving, move us. I'm not sure we can do that.
Seymour, maybe. Robertson, if his guards are good enough. And then we don't even know who the other guard is. So let's just move along to this next question.
Yeah.
Is the O-line going to suck again? Are any of the composite parts going to suck? Or are they going to find 5 good, average to good SEC players with 1 or 2 passable to good backup options?
Yeah, that's the big question. So I think our tackles are going to be good. I think we'll have one of the best tackle combos in the league.
Yeah.
And the real question is, do we start anyone on our O-line who is below average or worse? Because that guy can be targeted, that guy can be attacked. And particularly some of the defenses that we like to play, like OU and A&M or LSU with Blake Baker, they get after that weak link over and over and over. They will pick the scab, no matter how many little Band-Aids you try to put on it schematically. If we can have every guy be a starter who's at least average SEC or better, we're good, man, because the skill components around them are going to terrify people. And as I said, I think our tackle combo is going to be quite good, arguably the best in the league. So that's the key. Don't have a bad starter on your offensive line. That is important no matter what system you run. You can get away with it a little bit more in other systems, but what Sark wants to do, boy, it really hurts when you can't have quality guard and center play.
So just to recap, for anybody that has stumbled onto this video, has not watched us expound on this for the last year, Texas has an SEC average center, Connor Robertson.
We think, yeah.
And then 0 sure thing SEC average guards. They have a bunch of guys that could be that next year if they are declared eligible or make a clean transition from offensive tackle or get better or get healthy. But 0 guys that we are like, we know this guy is going to start and be an SEC average guard next year. Right?
Yeah, I think this ties in with the system that we talked about earlier. I like Brandon Baker. I think he plays very hard, and I think he has excellent feet.
Yeah.
He's not super strong. And you see that repeatedly. Players can get stronger. And frankly, our strength and conditioning program needed a swift kick in the ass with what we're doing with those offensive linemen. People often say, well, our defensive line didn't have struggles with that. Well, the 2 guys that were the strongest guys on our defensive line were both transfers. So 1, that should probably get your attention. Two, defensive linemen are different athletes, guys. They're being recruited for different traits. Your least athletic defensive lineman would be one of your most athletic offensive linemen if you switched rooms. So don't think that the attributes are one-to-one. They're not the same. So, and even Trevor Gooseby, who is a very good offensive lineman, he has great feet, super long, very coordinated. He's better at blocking down or like getting, movement that already, pinning someone, stuff like that. He doesn't just fire out and blow people off the ball. So that's something we need to look at. I do think based on marrying it to the scheme and also Baker's natural improvements, I think he could be an effective guard for us, but I'm not certain.
To this point, we know that Kyle Flood's priority when he's trying to find the next offensive lineman for Texas is he's like, I want guys with good feet who can play, who can do pass protection.
Yeah.
They need to be athletic enough to be good in pass protection. And then if they can do that, then we'll teach them how to run block, and that'll all come together. Now, obviously that has not come together. I would love to hear Kyle Flood's frank assessment of the strength program, because the assumption is if I go get an athlete out of high school who's big, he's going to come in and the strength program is going to work with him year round, and he will develop the requisite strength to do what I want him to do. And I wonder if he thinks that's happening or not, or what his read of that situation is. Because he seems to understand, like, Becton is like, forget genetics. I'm going to build explosiveness and athleticism in people, which is like, okay. And Flood is out there going, genetics is everything. I'm recruiting genetics. So you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's an interesting, I don't know the answer to that. But it will be interesting because we have to get a little better in that regard. And, we're not talking about against Ohio State down on the goal line, which murdered us. We're talking about UTEP, guys. Remember? Yeah. So Ian and I go back and watch those deep dives. We document it. We circle guys and say, look, this guy can't get a push on a Conference USA player. So we've got to fix that. There's no question. Or we've got to fully commit to our O-line is athletic and they've got a high motor, and we're going to run the hell out of outside zone. So,
yep.
We'll see. Hey, here's another thing you guys need to see. You got to see about your mortgage. Rates are down. Your interest is up. Spring is springing. It's time to go buy a new house or refi your current house. If you got a current rate over 6%, call Gabe. Very good probability he can refi you for free at 832-557-1095. How the hell can he do that? Well, for one thing, he's really sharp. He's really good at what he does. He's a UT grad, so he's obviously a genius. But also, he's a broker. So what that means is he doesn't work for Big Bank USA. He doesn't work for an individual mortgage firm. He's on his own, and he goes out and he shops your deal to about 50 different wholesale lenders and has them bid and compete against each other. And in so doing, you're going to get the best, most optimal deal for you. That is the approach that you want to take in doing what is the most important financial decision of your life. Other than the choice of your wife, the buying of your house, probably the most important thing you'll ever do for your financial well-being. Call Gabe. He can certainly help you with the house part. Call him at 832-557-1095 and tell Gabe that we sent you and ask him if we should commit to outside zone. All right, you want to talk D?
Right before we do that, I do. But before we do that, Utah Horn had this comment where this is going to be the wrong one. He says, I'd love to see play action off of Arch doing a quarterback dive and then throwing it deep. I remember Troy Smith at Ohio State used to do it with their wide receiver. It's funny he mentions Troy Smith here. I immediately think of Tim Tebow. He used to do that.
Yeah.
Actually, when Westlake beat North Shore a couple of years ago in the semifinal, they did this a bunch with Reese Wise.
Oh, okay.
It's devastating. I was begging Texas to do this the entire back half of 2024 when Arch would come in periodically for short yardage stuff.
Yeah.
They've never done it. But I dream of someday. Because if you run quarterback power ever, so the teams know you do it, and then you do it one time and the quarterback ducks down like he's running quarterback power, As soon as the safeties see that, they're crashing downhill, and then he drops back up and flings it, and it's wide open. Colin Klein, probably. Jake Waters actually did it on quarterback draw a lot the following year. They called it taser. Isn't that awesome?
Because it stunned the defense.
Well, they had like Glenn. Remember they had like Glenn Gronkowski doing it, the lesser Gronk brother.
The Gronk the lesser.
Gronk the lesser. He'd be like the fullback on the lead. You could do this with Townsend, and he'd like lead on draw, and Jake Waters and the linemen would always get illegally downfield. But
yeah, I can recall Bryles doing this with RG3 too.
Oh God, that's right. Yeah. Yeah. It's a lost art. Quarterback power, play action.
You ready to talk D?
Now I'm ready to talk defense. Now that we've indulged that.
So there's some things that we want to hear. There's some indicators we want to find out. Hey, I think the big question, like the 10,000 foot macro view of this defense is we got a new defensive coordinator. And this defensive coordinator can coordinate and coach every position on the field on defense. He can coach any part of that defense. He can coordinate the front. He can coordinate the secondary. I believe in modern football that you set your defense from the back end forward, whereas it used to be in old day football is like, what front are we in? All right, well, that dictates what our coverages are going to be, right? I think it's the opposite now. And
Akina said that at his presser last year.
Who said that?
Dwayne Akina.
Oh, okay, well, maybe I disagree.
No, he said, no. He said, y'all tell me what the front is, and then I'll figure out.
Oh, well, there you go.
I know.
Proof was in the pudding.
Yeah.
Very true. All right, that's interesting. Well, so here's the bottom line. We know Will Muschamp because we've already coached here in Austin, and we've seen him at Auburn. We've seen him at South Carolina. We've seen him at Florida. We know what kind of defense he wanted to run. As college football evolved, he got into the Georgia system, the Kirby Smart system. How much is he now a pure Kirby Smart acolyte? Or did he run that because that's what Georgia wants to run, and he works for Kirby Smart, and that's his job to incorporate that defense? Or did he see aspects of that defense that he likes, and he wants to combine it with his other predilections? What defense are we running? Is it going to be mostly Georgia-esque with a twist here or two? Or is it going to be kind of a hybrid blend of old school Texas, Sergio Kendall era, and Kirby Smart mint front, stop the run with the least guys possible, two safeties deep, edge rushers need to contain, not worry about sprinting upfield and getting sacks? Like, what are we getting?
I wrote just a little bit about that this morning on InsideTexas.com, joined for a buck. And I noted that Lance Jackson is probably the best tell for which direction they go in. And I was like, I think maybe he can do both. I think he can play the four, because I watched him. I was kind of skeptical on that. I watched him against Michigan this week.
You've come around.
I've come around. He looked a lot sturdier when he had to play inside. I noticed
very comfortable.
I noticed one play where he got washed out on the initial watch, and I was like, he was fine overall. And he's obviously great outside. Then this morning, Justin said that he thinks that Lance Jackson is currently around 280 pounds.
That is what is known as an indicator.
And so that would suggest like, they can play him at 4i for sure. And he will be a monster there because he's so sudden that if you have a guard trying to reach him, that's a bad bet. He's got better length. He's way more athletic. But I think I noticed against Michigan, what I said this morning was you'd think like a guy his size would be like, hey, he's too strong for a tight end and he's too quick for an offensive lineman, right? He was too quick for tight ends and he was too strong for offensive linemen last year.
Yeah.
He's a freak.
Yeah.
So if Muschamp could just say, we're doing it all and we're just going to move this guy around and he's going to make it all work.
That's where I'm starting to lean. That said, I think in the spring game, Muschamp might run the most vanilla, non-revealing nonsense and save a bunch of his twists. Even we might even do that in our opener, and we might save it all for Ohio State, especially with the new offensive coordinator, and we're at home, etc. I think we will be predominantly Georgia philosophy, but I think we're going to have some significant twists for opponents. Like, I think we'll game plan specific opponents.
So if you know what I would consider doing if I were Muschamp in that vein is just play Mint 4 mod and drop Colin Simmons the entire spring game and just play vanilla Mint type front and be like, yeah, you all know that we're probably going to do this. And you're right. Here you go. And then they get into against Ohio State and it's like, not that. It's whatever else, you know. That to me could be the vanilla thing that he does.
Sugar Poppy says in the chat, we should just run PK's defense against Texas State. Like nothing's changed. It's actually not a bad idea. I'm not sure I agree with this. What do you think, Ian? I'll read it to you. You react. We are entirely not built to play Georgia defense, in my opinion. We have penetrating D-line and undersized linebackers.
I think there's two misapprehensions in this comment. One is that Texas's defensive tackles were not asked to get into the backfield under Pete Kwiatkowski. They were doing a lot of gap and a half and anchoring, and it's both at interior line and linebacker. It's not going to change that much from PK to Georgia. Secondly, Georgia, I think, has smaller linebackers than Geo Cushing 69. maybe understands.
Yeah, no, I mean, Georgia's linebackers were just awesome, right? But they emphasized speed over size at Georgia. And then also, my question to you would be, why did we bring in a 380-pound nose tackle?
Two of them, right?
Well, I mean, we've got guys we're developing, right?
No, they brought in Zion Williams.
Oh, well, yeah, he's not playing. He's not.
And Ian Jaffard.
Yeah, Ian Jaffard's going to play a lot, obviously. Zion Williams is going to develop, right? He's not going to play.
Right. And they have just
guys like Sharma, who's massive. Yep. I mean, so frankly, we are well constituted to play Georgia's defense. The question is whether dispositionally we want to, because the purpose of that 4-eye and that mint front, Geo, is actually to keep your linebackers clean, so they don't get big bodies on them and they can run around and cause havoc.
The 4-eye is also the 4-eye is much more upfield and penetrative than I think people realize.
You can play it two ways, right? You can play it, the Malcolm Roach approach, which is go wreck shop because you're just faster than these guys. Or you can just, hey, I'm here to eat double teams. That's the Dave Aranda 4-eye. That's the Baylor approach, right? Which has had mixed results. Sometimes very good defenses, sometimes terrible. So I think that's the big question.
Another good question from @UtahHorn. Scale of 1 to 10, how worried are you that Muschamp hasn't been the sole play caller in a few years? Not sure how long it's been.
So 1 would be no worry, 10 would be very worried.
Like a 2?
Yeah, 2.5. I'm gonna laugh if someone goes if Texas State goes tempo and Muschamp struggles to get the call in initially, he hasn't done it in a while. But I don't think that's going to be a problem. I think some of this comes from a Bill Connolly article where he was basically throwing shade on firing PK. He didn't really understand the dynamics of why. And then he was like, and Will Muschamp hasn't led a defense since 2010 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, he's not been on a yacht in the Caribbean. He's been deeply involved in football, either as a head coach, a key analyst, or a guy making handing Kirby the game plan for 2 opponents a year, right? So this guy's not been out of football. He's not out of touch. He's not going to come in and run the Tom Landry 4-3 flex, he's not some he's not frozen caveman lawyer, right? He's been active and involved in football. He's engaged.
I don't think he's like Hugh Freeze, where it's like, yeah, maybe I could update my offense, or I could go watch other people play golf because I have such an itch to be on the course.
Well, I think the argument is that he's Jimbo Fisher, and he's going to come in and like, this is my offense. This is what I run. The kids always screw up the execution. My offense is perfect. Like Will Muschamp's a pretty evolved guy. And although he has the fiery outward personality and persona, he's 90% like professorial, reading dusty tomes in the great library, trying to find edges. So
yeah, we're on the same page. He eats, sleeps, and breathes football. So
yeah. All right. What's our next conversation for defense, Mr. Boyd?
Who starts at nickel, Paul? Last year, this was I was like shining a light on this, like, hey, this seems like it's a big problem. And it worked out okay.
Yeah, with the true freshman stepping up.
Yeah. This year, it's not that it's a problem, it's just more of a curiosity. Because they have Grayson Littleton back, who was very good for a freshman as a nickel last year. But a lot of the ways in which he flashed potential was like, hey, this guy may just be, you may not want to keep him here.
He might just be a cover corner.
He may just be the best defensive back on the team. Then they added, no, go ahead.
Enter Bo Musco from Rutgers.
Yep.
That is a guy that I think has been very overlooked with the glitz and the glamour of bringing in Cam Coleman and literally a guy named Hollywood. Talk about glitz and glamour. Or even Biles, if you're more of a defensive aficionado. Bo Musco is going to be vital for this defense. Because if we think Littleton could be a good corner, Musco is going to be starting at nickel probably. And if we like Littleton at nickel, just because so many college offenses do run through their slot, Bo Musco might be a guy that, we're playing man up top and shutting down those early easy access routes that Sark drove him as crazy apparently as it drove us sometimes, right? So I think that's going to be an interesting discussion. Here's the thing. Usually Ian and I will kind of like wink at you and say, here's kind of what we think. And we might have an indicator, or we might just be able to use empirical reasoning and tell you how it's going to be. I don't know. We've got to actually practice a bunch. And guess what? Guess who will give you a great read on whether Grayson Littleton can cover people out wide? Cam Coleman. So we're going to find out real quick. And I think that optionality is going to be very interesting. So I would say that's a spring storyline for all of you to follow. Do we like Bo Musco at nickel? Do we like Bo Musco outside? And where is Grayson Littleton best deployed? Nickel or outside at corner?
The other interesting thing with him is that his coach at Rutgers is the cornerbacks coach for Texas, Mark Orfe.
Okay.
So he knows who Musco is and what he can do. And then obviously he knows the Texas personnel because he coached them last year. So, I mean, they could play Littleton and Musco as Masco or whatever, as the corners. You threw me off with your stupid French pronunciation of it.
What also threw you off is Sugar Poppy's talking trash about your poor defense in the flag football playoffs. So,
oh God, I was not defensive coach.
I'm a defensive coach, and my son's team is 4-0, so no big deal.
I did. It was more my fault probably than the defensive coach, though, because we scored once.
We're not doing a flag football tangent until the very end, Ian. We'll come back to this. People are clicking off right now as we speak. All right. So Musco, Littleton, that dynamic, we don't know.
But it could be him and Mack at nickel. Wardell Mack.
Sure. Wardell Mack, yeah. The point is, we don't know, but you've got to watch that. I love our secondary.
Yeah.
I think they're a year away from being dominant, actually. But I think they might be pretty damn good before then. 2008, secondary was pretty damn good. 2009, dominant. So I think we can get a similar dynamic here.
As it should be. Texas should always be at least a year away from being awesome in the secondary. Because the state produces unreal talent there.
Yeah.
And now you can like just transfer them in too. So, yep.
I would agree. What else do we want to talk about on defense?
This is actually a good question by Sugar Poppy. Is Muschamp, that is, the kind of guy who likes to cross-train the secondary?
God, for a second, I was like, did we bring in Champ Bailey as like a graduate assistant analyst? That would be amazing. But no, Muschamp.
Actually, no. I think. I think Akina did that. I mean, he worked with Akina last time, and Akina always wanted to do that.
Yeah.
But it seemed like Muschamp kind of pushed him a little bit away from the four corners deal. Aquino was like, I'm recruiting. It was like Kyle Flood. I'm recruiting all corners, and then some of them will move inside to safety. And then Muschamp was like, here's Nolan Brewster, who's not ever going to play corner, or Kenny Vaccaro. So I don't know.
That's hard to differentiate just because of pure talent. I mean, Earl Thomas can do anything on a football field he wants to.
Uh-huh.
Right? Even Kenny Vaccaro, I don't know if you'll recall, he was a nickel.
But they didn't cross-train either of those guys at corner, I don't think.
No, they didn't. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. The point is they were recruiting designated safeties, though.
Yeah.
And I don't actually mind the four-corner philosophy per se.
No,
but I mean, I have no problem with it. I do think you need to occasionally go grab a true safety, though, if you run a certain system.
So Gideon and Joseph would say, we want four corners and then a single in every class, ideally, four corner prospects and then a true alley safety. And then maintain like most of your positions. You kind of want a guy with corner athleticism and skill.
Yeah.
But then you still want a couple guys in the secondary that will run the alley and smack people.
I kind of like four corners and a safety.
Yeah.
That's my predilection. And I need a couple of my corners to be willing to put their hat in there a little bit. But that's just player variability, right? Your philosophy doesn't dictate that. What else?
Those are the big ones. We want to hear stuff this spring. Like the linebackers look good. The linebackers totally get it. Cryer is more athletic than we thought. Actually, I don't know. I don't think I do want to hear that because it will make me doubt everything else I hear.
Yeah. No, it'll just make you doubt the person he was covering, probably. I think those are some of the indicators. I'm really excited about this season. I think Texas could be a really good football team. I also think we're going to play a hell of a schedule. So we're going to find out. And Ian and I kind of love and sort of fetishize that 2019 LSU Joe Burrow team. If you'll go back, people forget how daunting their schedule was. They played a brutal schedule. And I mean, I think, didn't they beat by the end of the year, they'd beaten 5 or 6 top 10 teams or something crazy?
Oh, surely. Because they had to beat 3 in the postseason. So
yeah, I mean, by the end of the year,
probably 7 or 8 or something.
Yeah, they played 9 top 25 teams. They played they just beat, and they played literally every elite team in the country and just beat them. So I'm not saying that we've got that kind of schedule, but I'm telling you, this is going to be a challenge. We're going to be in some tough environments. But I'm really excited about this Texas football team. Those are some of the indicators we've got looking into the spring. We'd love to hear y'all's. We'd love to hear it in the comments. Like and subscribe this channel. We do this for you. We want to hear your feedback. We want you to reward us in the algorithm. Give us likes, give us subscriptions. And then finally, go to Inside Texas, pay $1 American, and you can be integral in the greatest Longhorn conversation on the interwebs. Ian,
for the record,
yes.
For the record, although we performed very poorly in the playoffs on offense and flag football, the team caught us with a defensive scheme we had not seen as much in the year. And our best solution for it was like this 5-10, just catch the ball over anybody. Broke his ankle the day of the playoff. and showed up on crutches.
Do you think the other team's coaches did it?
I don't know. I'm not saying they didn't.
Did they Tanya Harding him?
I actually have no idea what happened to that kid, but
poor guy.
It was some kind of accident.
All right. Well, conversely,
I just want that on the record.
Conversely, we're 4-0 and just cruising through our flag football league. And yes, I tried not to coach, and I got dragged in, and now I'm coaching the defense.
Dude, it's so much fun. I don't know why you would even resist.
It is fun, but dude, it dominates my mind, and I get more nervous about it than like half the real things in my life that should matter. And I'm sitting like drawing up plays anytime I'm bored. Yep. I got Randy Boone texting me like, dude, I need to play. We could get the playoffs. Like, I have lost sleep over my flag football team before, and this is not healthy. So anyway, we want to thank all of you for watching, listening, being a part of our family. Make sure you like and subscribe. Thanks, y'all. We're out.